Let me tell you about a guy who did everything right. At least, that's what he told himself every night before he went to sleep. He was the kind of guy who was there for her every single time she needed someone. If her car broke down at 200 a.m., he was the first call she made, and he was there in 20 minutes with a jump starter and a coffee. When she had a bad day at work, the kind of day where the boss is breathing down your neck and the world feels like it's closing in, he was the one who listened for hours. He didn't check his watch. He didn't try to steer the conversation back to himself. He just listened. He made her laugh until her stomach hurt. He remembered every tiny detail she mentioned in passing. Her childhood dog's name, her favorite obscure indie movie, the fact that she hated the sound of people whistling in quiet rooms. He genuinely, truly cared about her as a human being. And yet, after a year of this, she never said a word about how she felt. In fact, the dynamic stayed exactly the same until it didn't. One day, the calls slowed down. The thank you text became shorter, and before he knew it, she was moving on with someone else. Someone who, from the outside, didn't seem to do half as much as he did. I know that guy because that guy was me. And the worst part of that entire experience wasn't the rejection. It was the realization that I didn't even understand what was happening until it was already over. I was sitting in the silence of my own room thinking, what did I miss? What did I do wrong? I followed the script. I was the perfect support system. The answer wasn't that I did something wrong in the way I treated her. The answer was that I didn't understand the fundamental mechanics of how human feelings actually work. I didn't understand the safety gap. I didn't understand what actually makes a girl feel safe enough to cross the line from, he's a great guy, to, I need him to be mine. And that is exactly what we are going to fix today. I am going to walk you through 7 specific shifts in your behavior and your mindset that change the dynamic between you and a woman completely. We're going to talk about how to move from being the reliable, nice guy, who is essentially a psychological safety blanket, to being the man she stops waiting for and starts telling exactly how she feels. But before we get into the how, we have to answer the question that is likely burning a hole in your mind right now. If she has these feelings, why hasn't she just said them? From where you are standing, it seems like a no-brainer. You like her, she shows signs of liking you, so why the stalemate, why the agonizing silence? Here is the reality that most men fail to grasp: she is likely terrified. You have to realize that the more she actually likes you, the higher the stakes become for her. If she confesses her feelings, and you don't feel the same way, she doesn't just lose a potential boyfriend. She feels like she loses her entire world. She loses her safe person. She loses the comfort of your presence and the beautiful, fragile dynamic you have right now. To her, that risk feels like jumping off a cliff without knowing if there's a net at the bottom. She is waiting for a sign, not just a hint or a compliment, but a deep, structural sense of psychological safety that tells her that if she jumps, you are already standing there to catch her. These 7 shifts are designed to build that net. The first shift is perhaps the most difficult for a guy who cares deeply. You must understand the difference between being available and being predictable. Early in my life, I believed that being available was the ultimate proof of my devotion. If she texted, I replied in 30 seconds. If she wanted to hang out on a Tuesday night when I had a deadline the next morning, I cleared my schedule. I thought I was being reliable and supportive. In reality, I was becoming predictable. And in the world of attraction, predictability is a massive vibe killer. When you are 100% predictable, you remove what psychologists call the space of longing. Feelings don't grow in a vacuum of constant contact. They grow in the quiet space between 2 people. Think about it this way: when you are always instantly there, she never has a single moment to wonder where you are or what you're doing. She never has to sit with the feeling of actually missing you. If your favorite song played on a loop 24/7 in your house, you would eventually stop hearing it. It would become background noise. You love the song because it ends, and you have to make the conscious choice to hit play again. You don't need to play dark psychology games or act like a jerk. You just need to have a life that genuinely, visibly exists outside of her. Stop being the guy who drops everything the second her name pops up on your screen. Sometimes, reply 2 hours later because you were actually focused on your workout, your hobby, or your career. When she starts wondering, what is he up to right now? Her brain is literally rehearsing her feelings for you. That space creates a magnetic pull that makes her realize she wants you closer. It forces her to acknowledge that your presence is a gift, not a given. This leads us directly into a fundamental psychological shift regarding how you present yourself. Most guys think they need to earn a confession by being as impressive as possible. They talk about their promotions, their gym progress, the expensive things they've bought, or the impressive people they know. They are trying to build admiration. But here is the problem. Admiration is a distant emotion. You can admire a statue or a celebrity from a mile away. What makes a woman confess her feelings is the feeling of being understood. Every guy she meets is trying to impress her. It's a constant, droning noise she's learned to filter out. But almost no one is trying to truly understand her. When a man makes a woman feel like he sees the version of her that she doesn't show to the rest of the world, she becomes emotionally hooked in a way that is incredibly powerful. Stop trying to be the most interesting person in the room and start making her feel like the most interesting person in the world. I remember sitting with a girl who was telling me about the stress of her family life. Most guys would have offered advice or told a story about their own family. Instead, I just looked at her and said, "It sounds like you feel like you're carrying everyone's expectations and you don't have anywhere to put them down." She went quiet for a long time and then she actually teared up. She told me months later that was the exact moment she knew she was in love. Why? Because I didn't try to fix her or show off my own wisdom. I just saw her. When a woman feels seen, the walls of her fear begin to crumble. She feels safe enough to be honest, because she knows you already understand the parts of her she's afraid to show. This brings us to a principle that might feel counterintuitive, but it is the most important one on this entire list. I call it the contrast principle. Your instinct will tell you that to get her to confess, you should be even more affectionate, even more present, and even more on. But the reality is that you need to give her your complete, warm, undivided attention when you are together, and then return fully to your normal life when you are not. Most guys stay in a lukewarm middle ground. They are texting her all day, every day, but the conversations are hollow and boring. This creates a flat line of emotion. There is no peak and no valley. Instead, you want to create a high-neutral cycle. When you are with her, be 100% locked in. Put your phone away. Give her deep eye contact. Be intensely present. Listen to the subtext of what she's saying. Make her feel the warmth of your full attention. And then, when the date is over or the hangout ends, go back to your mission. Go back to your work, your goals, and your solitude. Don't linger. Don't send the "I had such a great time" text 5 minutes after you leave. This creates an emotional contrast. She experiences the high of your presence and then the neutral of your absence. Her brain will instinctively try to resolve the tension by moving toward you. When she realizes that the only way to secure that high-level feeling is to bridge the gap and make things official, she will start looking for the words to tell you how she feels. To get her to that point, you also have to employ the one-layer deeper rule. Human beings are biologically wired to fall for the people they share secrets with. When we share vulnerable information, our brains release oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. Most guys stay in the safe zone, asking about work, the weather, or the weekend. These are surface-level conversations that lead to surface-level friendships. If you want a confession, you have to move into deep water. You have to ask questions that invite her to share her internal world. Instead of asking, "How was your day?" ask, What was the most stressful moment of your day? Instead of asking, what music do you like? Ask, what song do you play when you're in your feelings and you don't want to talk to anyone? Instead of asking, where did you grow up? Ask, what do you miss most about the person you were when you were 10 years old? These questions require her to look inward. When she shares those answers with you, she is subconsciously marking you as special. She doesn't tell the guy at the office those things. She doesn't tell her casual acquaintances those things. The more insider information you have about her soul, the more she feels like you are already her partner. Eventually, the label of the relationship has to catch up to the reality of the emotional intimacy. Another crucial, often overlooked element is what I call the warm disagreement. Early in my life, I was a yes man. I thought if I agreed with everything a girl said, she'd see how compatible we were. I thought if I liked everything she liked, she'd see us as a perfect match. This is a massive mistake. When you agree with everything, you stop being a person and start being a mirror. And here's the thing, nobody falls in love with a mirror. There is nothing to hold on to. You cannot build a deep connection with someone who has no edges. You need to have your own opinions and your own backbone. If you disagree with her take on a movie or a restaurant or a political idea, say so, but do it warmly. Say, I actually see that totally differently. Or, honestly, I wasn't a fan of that place. Can we try the taco spot instead? When you disagree, you prove two things. First, that you are a grounded individual who doesn't need her approval to exist. And second, that you are an honest man. If she knows you're honest enough to tell her when you don't like a movie, she will trust that you are being 100% honest when you tell her she looks beautiful or that you care about her. This honesty builds a specific type of trust called integrity trust. She needs to feel that you are a real, solid person before she can ever risk the vulnerability of inflexion. We also have to discuss the concept of building an inside world. This is the secret source of long-term attraction and emotional safety. An inside world is a collection of jokes, nicknames, and references that only exist between the two of you. When you have an inside joke, you are essentially creating a private language. When you are in a room full of people and you catch each other's eye because someone said something that references your joke, it creates a micro bond. For a split second, the rest of the world disappears and it's just the two of you. Why does this work so well? Because it makes the relationship feel irreplaceable. She can find another guy to take her to dinner. She can find another guy who is tall or funny or successful. But she cannot find another guy who understands the specific, weird joke you share about the blue squirrel from 3 months ago. That world only exists with you. When she realizes that losing you doesn't just mean losing a guy, but losing an entire private world that only the two of you inhabit, her fear of losing that world will eventually overcome her fear of confessing. She will want to lock that world down. The final step in this process is casual future projection. To confess her feelings, she needs to know there is a place for her in your future, but you cannot demand that she be there. If you say, I really see a future with you, or I want you to be my girlfriend, it is too heavy. It creates an immediate pressure that forces her to make a decision before she might be ready. Pressure makes people run. Instead, use light, throwaway comments that include her in your future without any heavy emotional weight. Say things like, you'd actually love that hiking trail. We should check it out when the weather gets warmer. Or, there's a festival in October that is completely your vibe. We definitely need to try the food there. These sentences don't demand a response or a label. They are casual. But every time you say "wa" in the context of the future, you are planting a seed. You are making her picture it. And here is the thing about the human brain. When we visualize a future with someone, we start wanting that future. When she starts building a future in her head that has you in it, she stops being able to imagine a future that doesn't. That is the moment she will stop holding back. When all 7 of these things are working together, you are creating what I call a pressure cooker of affection and safety. You've given her the space to miss you. You've given her the safety of being truly understood. You've created emotional tension through your presence and absence. You've built depth through your questions. You've shown integrity through your honesty. You've built a private world through your inside jokes. And you've given her a vision of the future. At this point, she is likely bursting at the seams. The silence will become unbearable for her, and she will be looking for any excuse to say the words. It might happen on a quiet drive home, or over a random Tuesday night dinner, or during a walk in the park. She might say, "You know, I've realized I really like having you around," or "I don't think I've ever felt this comfortable with someone." That is your cue. You didn't have to chase her. You didn't have to beg. You didn't have to play games. You just created a space where the truth could finally breathe. I want to leave you with a bit of Stoic wisdom. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that we should focus on our character rather than our reputation. He believed that a man should be like a promontory, a piece of land that juts out into the sea. The waves continually break against it, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it. Don't just do these 7 things as tactics to get an outcome. Do them because being a man who is intensely present, who listens deeply, who has a life of his own, and who is honest even when it's uncomfortable is simply a better way to exist. When you become that grounded, stable man, you stop chasing and you start attracting. You become that promontory. You become someone worth confessing to. If you've been watching this and you've realized that you've been stuck in that nice guy trap, always available, always agreeing, always trying to be impressive, don't beat yourself up. We've all been there. I was there for years. The key is to just pick one of these 7 things and change it starting today. Stop the instant replies. Ask the deeper question. Disagree on the movie. Watch what happens when you stop trying to do everything right according to a script and start being a real, grounded, stoic man. If this video gave you a new perspective on the safety gap and how feelings actually work, do me a favor. Hit the like button so this message can reach more guys who are stuck in their own heads. Subscribe to join our community because we talk about the intersection of psychology, Stoicism, and modern life every single week. And if you are sitting there thinking, "I think she likes me, but I'm still not 100% sure," I've got you covered. Go watch my video on the 5 signs she wants a relationship but is too scared to say it. It will give you the final piece of the puzzle. Go out there, build your inner citadel, and let the right people find their way in. I'll see you in the next one.